Hey, Shalom Akim. First and foremost, call hello Yahweh, Shem Yahushai, Bahashir Dash. And of course, double honors go out to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who, through the Holy Spirit, continue to give us His truth. All right, this is Naaman at DC Camp. And in this video, we're going to highlight uh, these wicked Edomite other half. All right, and a lot of people, unfortunately, want to give this bitch a pass. All right, she's all right. Uh, they both played and continue to play their part in our misery and our suffering. All right. Don't forget what this bitch used to do back in the day. How many of our people got killed for even just looking at this bitch? All right, because of her caveman. Anyway, this happened in Ohio. It says this is from Hip Hop Wired. It says Ohio KK Karen claims she's being terrorized by so-called black people during sentencing for terrorizing so-called black people. If the privileged, entitled, and often dangerous white women we not so affectionately call Karens have nothing else, they have the nerve. And that's true. It's like shit that's often the case, none of their business, but you gotta understand, they've had this long ass run where they had always gotten their way. And now it's not like that so much anymore. And, they're crying foul. Anyway, continuing on, it says on Thursday, an Edomite woman from Ohio was sentenced to 6 months in prison for shouting racial slurs at a group of so-called black teenagers and trying to hit them with her car in a grocery store parking lot. And if you're wondering, say, well, why are they always saying so-called black? That's just it. No one is black. All right, our people fell for this, you know, this bullshit categorization by our enemy here and boxing us in with that black and white bullshit. All right. Now, of course, him claiming to be white, that goes into being pure and all this shit, causing no harm, and we know that's far from the truth, as you can see in this article here. All right. And given the history of these two pieces of shit, hey, they work hand in hand. So don't give this thing any pass. Personally, I don't even like, being in secluded areas alone with these motherfuckers. I mean, seriously, I'm not just saying that just to say it. All right. Because I know the history. And it says, during sentencing, the woman reportedly broke down in the saltiest of mayonnaise flavored tears and tried to justify her actions by essentially saying so called black people have terrorized her for years, and that's the reason she felt the need to terrorize complete strangers who happen to be of the melanated variety. And of course, that's a infamous tactic of these so called white women, all right? And of course, her caveman, needs to defend her so-called white womanhood, and like I said earlier, a lot of our people got killed over nothing but, you know, depending on how this bitch felt at any given moment. All right. So continuing on, it says, according to Raw Story, 43-year-old Angela Baker was found guilty of two felony charges of ethnic intimidation related to the KK Karen's Gone Wild incident that took place in front of a, what is it, Meyer grocery store? A major grocery, however you say it, last year. All right. And this is part of that, of the curses where it tells you when we brought over here, all right, I guess I could have got Psalms first, but anyway, since I'm here, toward the end here in verse 65, it says, uh, and among these nations shalt thou find no ease, and neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest, but the Most High Yahweh shall give thee there a trembling heart, and failing of eyes, and sorrow of mind. Imagine that. Just looking for someone can cost you your life. All right. If you remember the movie Goodbye Uncle Tom, at the beginning there, when they were trying, training Jake, that Edomite, he was saying, you don't look a white man in the face. Had Jake with his looking down, at the ground, and if they dared look him in the face, slap him and shit like that. Well, there were more severe penalties, especially when it came to their women. All right. Uh, since I mentioned it, let's go to Psalms. You know, 23rd chapter. It says, "The Most High Yahweh is my shepherd; I shall not want. He maketh me lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for His name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, which this is, all right, I will fear no evil, for Thou art with me. Thy rod and Thy staff, they comfort me." All right. So again, this is our hell. All right. And you can see things no longer work the way they did for these people. So they're acting out. And this is why we try to stress to Jake, all right, um, be very aware of your surroundings. Because we're coming into a time now this man knows he's going down. And he's trying all kinds of shit. It's something I always say in a good majority of my videos. Before I was aware of the truth, I always used to ask this question. And lately I've been saying, well, there's a reason Daniel 12:1 is there. And I said, before I knew anything about this, I would often pose the question. I said, well, knowing the history of this devil and how he got the things that he now has, and the atrocities he committed, and achieving what he achieved, what do you think he's going to do in trying to hold on to this? All right. And I just, hey, you got to think about that. All right. We're coming to, for those that lived through the last parts of, Jim Crow, coming up through the so-called civil rights age, and knowing what this bastard personally is capable of and witnessing it. That's why you got to question why these older Jakes are like, oh, this forgive and forget shit. No. I've had older Jakes that came up with that era and said, you know what? And I'm serious when I say this. They said they can sense all this shit. This is back in the 90s when I would talk to Jakes in their like 80s and shit like this. So they came up seeing this motherfucker for who he truly was. And they would say, you know what, they feel all this shit coming back, all this segregation and all that. And again, this was in the 90s. All right. So yeah, like I say, this devil senses he's losing his demigodless status that he used to have in the world. All right. He can't handle that. All right. And I guess who he's going to take it out on? The person that, or people that can't defend themselves. And that's us. All right. Continuing on, it says Lucas County Judge Lori Olander tried to tell Baker about herself during sentencing. But breaking through a wall of racism and white entitlement isn't as easy as, say, running down a bunch of black kids minding their own business with one's car. You were driving what the state of Ohio considers a deadly weapon. You were in a running car. Those boys were on foot, Olander said. You could have hit either of those boys, whether you wanted to or not, because you can't always control a deadly weapon. But Baker had a different take on things. Of course she did. She reportedly responded by crying like a grown-up baby whose white privilege credit card just got declined, and exclaimed several times that, quote-unquote, I'm being terrorized, while also claiming several times that she's been harassed, threatened, and tormented by so-called black people over an extended period of time. Well, what do you say about the people who have actually been threatened, tormented, harassed, by so-called white people for centuries. Man, it says, first of all, I'm going to need Nazi Nancy to stop lying. I would sooner believe that orange was Donald Trump's birth color than I would believe that a white woman who has demonstrated her racial animosity and willingness to use black teens she's never met as speed bumps is actually the victim of harassment and violence at the hands of so-called black people. Nah, nonsense. The Emmett Till energy is radiating too strong off of you for me to buy your clanny white nonsense. But even if what Baker said were true, which it isn't, what the hell does that have to do with the black teen she shouted slurs at and tried to run over? All this time, so-called white people have been telling us they're not responsible for slavery, Jim Crow, or any other historic atrocities committed against so-called black people in America. And here we have a so-called white woman who wanted to lynch random so-called black kids over the offenses she said other so-called black people committed during her lifetime, which she's probably lying about. Thankfully, Baker's white tears didn't win her any favors with the judge. If only that were the way things always turned out. And like I say, the judgment is coming on this upon this devil. These curses that were put on us are being transferred to them, but they don't like it. Let's go ahead and look at this news clip.
Now to Oregon, where police say a Toledo woman tried to scare and hit African Americans with her car simply because of the color of their skin. That woman has been charged with ethnic intimidation. Carla Byron with the details tonight.
Interesting charge. I'm going to stop it right here because sometimes you hear that. I never heard of that charge before. This is like something they might have on the books that they might could, try to come at us with. Just for, wow, telling the truth. All right? Ethnic intimidation. Damn, the irony of it.
How's it going?
Not good.
Not good?
Yeah, I'm
You okay?
tired of these harassing me. Always walking past my car and all this harassing.
In the car is Angela Baker of Toledo. Oregon police say on Tuesday evening, two African-American males walked to the Meijer on South Wheeling Street to get some snacks. Baker, in her car in the parking lot, started to yell racially charged language towards them.
So I flip him off, and then he starts coming towards me.
Okay.
So I start my car up and go towards him. He runs.
Eventually, she took her car and she swerved at him, which led the young African males to think that they were going to get hit by her car.
Nope.
Uh-oh.
Baker was arrested and charged with ethnic intimidation and aggravated menacing, a felony of the 5th degree that carries prison time.
When our crews interviewed her, she stated that she didn't have any problem with them other than the color of their skin. And we're not going to put up with that in our community, obviously.
Lieutenant E.J. Materney says the department doesn't run into ethnic intimidation cases very often, but when it does happen, they take action.
We don't understand why people act like this. This is 2020, and we're not going to put up with that in our community. There's no place for it.
Baker is still lodged at the Lucas County Jail under a $50,000 cash bond. Reporting in Oregon, Carla Byron, WTOL 11.
See? Anyway. So, yeah. I mean, some of these things are just now that are coming out. And that's something you got to consider too. Why they wait so long for things of this nature to bring them about? I think we know the answer. All right, but hey, America, your sins are being discovered. Everybody's, your shame is being exposed. And as a matter of fact, let me get that. Hey, let's go to Habakkuk. Hey, let's go down here because you've built yourself up over these decades, at least for little over 100 years, all right, as being this sort of like a utopia. Well, it's like, what is everybody looking at, all right? But they tended to look over what happened to us, all right? And during this time frame, America has fucked over So many people. All right. Wow. Anyway, it says this is Habakkuk 2. Uh, let's see. I'm just going to go straight to the point. 16, it says, Thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, all right, and that's important because this cup is passing, all right, to them now. It says, And let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of the Most High Yahweh's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory. And that cup, in case you're wondering, let's go to Lamentations 4, the last two verses. All right. Basically, what I said a little bit earlier, what happened to us, and those curses that were put on us are being transferred to them. All right. It says, Rejoice and be glad. This is verse 21. O daughter of Edom. These are the red people. All right. That dwellest in the land of Uz. They're not white. That's why I was earlier saying so-called white, so-called black. All right. Because our people got caught up in that. The bullshit. All right. It says, The cup also shall pass through unto thee. Thou shalt be drunken and shalt make thyself naked. Actually, back, Habakkuk, I should have started at 15, but I went straight to the point where it's talking about how this devil, throughout time, all right, this is what he does with his philosophy and his doctrine, his so-called democracy, all this bullshit, all right, these people, these nations are tired of because they see that, well, how destructive his philosophies and his doctrines are, all right, and then he sits back and looks and wonders why you're all so fucked up, but you decide to follow his ways. All right. Verse 22, it says, The punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. All right, meaning us. All right. These curses are being taken off of us. It says, He will no more carry thee away into captivity. All right. He said, He will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom. He will discover thy sins. So, hey, these things, the tables are turning, all right? Oh boy, it's like this is the very beginnings, and these motherfuckers don't like it. We know they can't handle, I'm talking about the nation of Edom, so-called white people. That's, they can't handle adversity. They have no integrity, all right? Let's see. Oh, this is, let's see. Go into 16. It says, Therefore all they that devour thee, talking about us, Israel, shall be devoured, and all thine adversaries, every one of them, shall go into captivity, and they that spoil thee shall be a spoil, and all that prey upon thee will I give for a prey. And certainly that's the right word to use for our plight here, especially in America. All right, jakes are scattered all throughout the world, and we catch hell. The curses follow us anywhere, but this American devil has been exceptional, all right, and we especially look forward to these motherfuckers over here getting all that they deserve and then some, all right. Hey, so with that, once again, KK Karen, hey, she got what she deserved. All right. And you could tell by the voice of that, I guess he was a lieutenant. He didn't sound so enthused about doing what he was doing. Hey, so with that, shalom.